All right, brilliant. Well, welcome everyone for Wild Places Trail Chat. So my name's Will. I'm based in Port Kembla, which is on Dharawal land. And the first thing I want to do is acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay respects to elders past, present and future. As mentioned, this is our first ever trail chat, which is a bit exciting. We're hoping to make these things a regular thing going forward. For Wild Places is a group of activist runners. We aim to protect and celebrate the wild places we live in. A quick bit of housekeeping. I could probably skip a bit of this, but as you know, Hillary's there in the background. If you've got any questions or issues, jump into the chat and Hill should be able to help you out. We're just going to start with a few questions for Sam, and then we'll have a bit of Q&A. Then we will draw the Tarkine winners' shoes. And we'll hopefully finish up around 3 so folks can get back to work or an arvo run or whatever you want to do. So pumped to have Sam here. Among many impressive things, Sam is the co-founder of Tarkine, the world's most eco-friendly shoe. So hopefully this doesn't put you on the spot, Sam, but the first thing we just wanted to ask you, say a massive welcome to you. Thanks for coming. And if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. First of all, big fan of what you guys are doing and yeah, and everything you guys stand for. And yeah, so I, as you said, founded Tarkine in last year with a good friend of mine, Ross Johnson, who I grew up with and went through school with and have been running with for a long time. And we've been working on the brand since 2017, and it took a lot of time to figure out actually how to do it. Yeah, I mean, I guess my background is that I was a middle distance runner growing up, and yeah, through my teenage years and in my 20s, I was, and I was okay. I didn't ever quite made it to the top level, which sucks, but that's the reality of it. And then after that, I've always just been obsessed with running, and I still run today. Yeah, but I'm a trained veterinarian. I've been a vet for 16 years, and I have pretty extensive experience in wildlife medicine, as well as just plain old dog and cat medicine. And I guess after 15 years of slogging away as a veterinarian, I just thought there had to be something more out there for me than there's a lot of customer service involved with being a vet, and it just kind of wore me down a little bit, to be honest. And I thought I just want to have a crack at something really fun and really cool, and maybe that potentially, if I can somehow make it work, could be maybe bigger than just one person, and it could be maybe something that makes a big difference, locally, on an environmental level. And so I've always been a massive greenie, and I've always been involved in a family of greenies, and a brother that used to work with Bob Brown many decades ago, and I've kind of grown up with that around me, and I follow the Bob Brown Foundation very closely. I always donate to them every year, and I just thought, hey, like I went to the Tarkine Ultra in 2020, like right when COVID was hitting and chaos was encircling the world, and I ran that race as kind of the world was just going crazy. We didn't really know what was happening because we were just tucked away in this beautiful part of the world, and it was at that moment I decided, if I'm going to do this, let's just name it after this magnificent place, and try and stand for something more than just being a brand, just for the sake of being a brand. A brand, we want to be a brand that is out there trying to raise money for vital organizations, and diverting a large chunk of our revenue towards that.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a brief intro. I don't want to bore anyone, No,
man, it's not boring, And actually, the next question we had, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I mean, it's pretty epic to start a whole new company. As runners would know, there's heaps of good quality brands of shoes out there. Why create a whole new company?
Yeah, I guess, look, I mean, it's a conflict that I've faced internally, I guess. Does the world actually need it? Blah, blah, blah. Like I could, you could debate that about anything in life, because there's so many, any product, you name it, unless you're an absolute star that comes up with something that no one's ever invented. I mean, most things are already invented. And if you've got young people that have an entrepreneurial streak to them, You know, you can't just say, hey, everything's already been done. You just need to go sit down in your box and do nothing with your life, you know. And so, you know, I've thought about that a lot. There definitely are no shoe companies that are really fighting hard for the environment and to try and save wild places. And I just thought, you know, there's definitely, to be honest, as an entrepreneurial side to me that wanted to do this pretty much for the sake of doing it. You know, I'm not going to lie about that. Like, it's just something I wanted to do it, you know, but at the same time, I want to create a brand that fights and we're transparent. We have the backing of the Bob Brown Foundation. I send these guys email with screenshots of revenue and then transfer money in. It's like, there's nothing that anyone can ask me anything and they can see anything, you know, and I just want to, that's what I'm about. I want to create a brand that, you know, is out there actually trying to make a difference. And the hope is that then these other brands that claim that they love wild places are going to then say, hey, you know, Tarkine is a tiny startup with not that isn't very big yet, and they're putting 2% of everything behind, you know, these organizations. Hey, we need to step up. And I'd love that, you know, because, you know, imagine if, I'm not going to say some brand names, but imagine if some of those big brands were putting 2% of revenue, you know, into, you know, a wonderful cause just like this. I think it would be a wonderful thing.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, when I only came across Tarkine recently, but I don't see it as just one more shoe. I see it as the only shoe that I've come across that's actually trying to change the culture of quite a wasteful industry. Anyway, sorry, this is not me answering questions. I'm getting into it already.
And it's right, like it's just it's very easy to make a shoe and just sell it and then just forget all about it. But obviously, and I'll get to that later, but a huge part of what we're doing is that our shoe, just to back up, it's not perfect. Like, there's not, it's very hard to make a shoe that's 100% eco-friendly. Like, there's some bad parts of the supply chain, okay? And that's something that I'm like, you know, I'm not hiding from, and it's just something that I'm hopefully going to be able to chip away at. But this, it's also, it's not good enough to sell a pair of shoes and then just forget about it. Like, every pair of shoes, with our customers' help, because obviously we can't force them to return these shoes, but they should be returning these shoes to us and to our recycling partner to be turned into useful products. Okay, so and I think that every brand has a responsibility. They should have that responsibility to kind of to create that cycle, instead of a lot of these shoes. You know, they're made using plastics that take 1,000+ years to break down, and that's not good enough. You know, the shoes need to be recycled.
Yeah, it's amazing. I actually wanted to come back to that in my next question, but before I do that, Sam, I just wanted to ask. It looks to me like you're doing things that a lot of people would see as being in contradiction with one another. It's pretty amazing. And one thing is, how do you balance like the realities of business with activism? How do you actually manage those two things?
Yeah, look, with difficulty, and like, you know, we'll probably have critics and stuff that say it's impossible, but, you know, I'm a believer that business as activism is a real thing, and that, you know, I could talk about a bunch of different organizations, but you know, I'm a huge fan of for Wild Places, obviously, but I know the happenings of the Bob Brown Foundation a bit more. So let's just talk about them for a second. Like, they spend a lot of their time raising money, right? Because they have massive overheads. You know, they have staff on the ground in Tarkine. They have a permanent camp in place. And then stuff like the Mount Lindsay mine and the Riley Creek mine, where they're actually, you know, they're actively, you know, at these sites trying to halt destruction of this ancient rainforest. But it's not just that, it's the legal fees that they have. Okay, massive legal fees, just trying to get people off the hook every time they get, arrested or whatnot from the Tasmanian police. The legal fees stack up, and just keeping that, you know, and they are constantly raising money. So, you know, it's it doesn't take a rocket science to realize that these organizations need money. Who has money, right? Successful companies have money, more money than nearly anyone else in the world. And so why can't, you know, these big successful companies be taking charge and saying, hey, you know, we've got a great week. I'm not saying that we're printing money yet, because we're totally not, but you know, but maybe if we can stay alive, maybe 5-10 years from now, we can be in a position that that we can just completely change the playing field here. Because Bob Pound, imagine what they could do with millions and millions and millions of extra dollars a year. Okay, and they're the sort of people that I trust to spend that money wisely, you know, and I think that it could be a massive difference. I mean, these, I don't know if you guys saw the pretty biased Four Corners on the other night, but it was just, you know, there's a place that we need to save. You know, I understand, you know, the world does need mining, but this is, you know, there are some places in this world that should be off limits. Okay.
Absolutely. Look, we just had one more question for you, then we'll open up to if Tim or anyone else wants to ask a question. But I'm gonna plug here. How good do these look? I actually got myself a pair and have been for a few runs. They're flipping beautiful. The other thing that seems like a contradiction, but you seem to have nailed it, is I didn't think it was going to be possible to manage quality with being eco-friendly, because I've been involved in a few different attempts at making things eco-friendly, and it's really bloody hard because of things like plastics and that kind of thing. But these are sensational, and I've read a bunch of reviews on your website that people are really stoked with the quality of these shoes. So maybe yeah, are you able to talk a little bit about what's gone into this and how you've managed that?
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so our first shoe is relatively few parts, because obviously the least number of parts you have, the easier it is to pull it off. And so there's a one-piece upper, and yeah, this is just a new colorway we're working on, but there's a one-piece upper because it's just, you know, it's a recycled, obviously, plastic trash, this upper. And so if you have a million bits to the upper, it's really hard to make that work. And so pretty much a one piece that also the laces obviously recycled too. It's called a sock liner, and this is it's a sock liner that decomposes. So and I'm going to be super honest, like every step you take, like if you start talking about biodegradable components of a shoe, this lasts not as long as the TPU plastic sock liners last. And so there are compromises to be made, okay? And like, you know, and I don't know whether I've got the mix completely perfect on this sock liner. I think maybe it needs to be a tiny bit more durable than it currently is, but it's just, you know, we're just getting started, and it's, you know, there's a lot to fix up and to work on and improve on. So yeah, so this is all, so everything you can see here is recycled, you know, laces, the upper, everything. Even like there's a bit of lining internally here, which we use GOTS certified organic cotton on the bits that aren't touching the skin. And then we have recycled mesh outside that. So we try to, like, every single bit of it, it's, you know, we try and, because there's a lot to the shoe that no one can see is what I'm getting at. And so we're trying to, even the bits that are hidden, we try and make sure they're responsible. Now this midsole, it's not recycled, okay? And I think there's some people say, oh, it's 100% recycled. It's like, I'm trying not to, get the wrong picture across, okay? Because this midsole is not recycled, okay? This is a high performance midsole. I have played around with a recycled midsole, and it is just horrific to run in, okay? I played around with a midsole that was 25% recycled, and then one with a 15% recycled, and it was just still, they were not that great. And so I figured, if it's 10% recycled, is that really even a big deal? And so we just decided, you know, it needs to be a great shoe to run in. But the cool thing about technology these days is that there are some awesome recycling technologies, and we can recycle this midsole into mats, so rubber mats, yoga mats, and even what I'm going to be working on mostly is rubber mats that you put inside vet hospitals, that inside animal cages. And so anyway, you can, even though the midsole is not recycled, we can recycle it. And then the outsole here, so the stuff stuck on is it's pre-consumer recycled. So the way that, what that means for those that don't, across that, is that rubber companies, for example, let's say they need to make an outsole, they'll cut all this rubber up, stick it on, and there'll be all these offcuts, and the offcuts just go to the tip, traditionally speaking. And so there's a few companies now that are going around and collecting these offcuts and then doing good things with them. And so that's what we've been able to tap into, okay? But it's not recycled, that rubber. It's just literally preventing it going to the tip. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. But that also gets recycled too. So, but this still has a carbon footprint, right? It's not this magical shoe without a carbon footprint, but we're doing our best with it. And then I think a large part of what we're doing, of course, is the raising money stuff as well.
Absolutely. No, thanks, Sam. Look, I could probably think of a bunch more questions, but at this point, I might just open it up. Is there anyone else who'd like to ask Sam a question?
I have a quick question, Sam. It's been exciting to see a bunch of ambassadors get on board. And I guess, what role do you feel like they play? I know I've been following Matt Gore, who's been doing a lot of stuff in your shoes. But yeah, like in terms of, I guess, raising awareness, not only of your product and putting it to the test, but then also actually going out and exploring places. Like, how does that kind of fit into what Tarkine's trying to achieve?
Yeah, the ambassadors for us are vital, because what we're really trying to do is align ourselves with like-minded people. Because as you probably know, Matt Gore ran 655K, I think, through Victoria and New South Wales and raised money for the Bob Brown Foundation. I think he raised $8,000 or $9,000 from memory. And, you know, he's a perfect sort of guy to have. He's also an amazing runner. He won the Alpine Challenge the other day, as you probably know. And so really good trail runner, really good endurance athlete, but also understands what we're about. And those ambassadors are key. We don't have huge pockets to chuck these guys money with, so it's not a financial thing. We're obviously just getting them products, getting them in our products, and then saying, hey, we're not even getting them to sign contracts. Like, it's not the sort of guy I am. Like, you know, if you want to be part of, if they want to be a part of Tarkine, and they want to help spread the word, and kind of, you know, create that brand that is trying to save this place, then there's a door open policy. You know, I wish I had more time to hunt these guys out. And I hope that with time, more of them just come knocking and say, hey, I love what you're doing. Can I get behind the brand? And like, we're never going to say no. Do you know what I mean? Unless they're, you know, but yeah, we're never going to really say no if they're an environmentally minded person, you know. But they're vital. Like, we don't have the big marketing budgets that, you know, other brands may have. And so what better way for us than to get ambassadors behind us? It's key for us.
Yeah. And also another question I have is, how do you know when a pair of runners are worn out? Like, have you, with all of your like experience, because I feel like a lot of people say it's per cat, you know, it's like after X amount of Ks, but how do you know when it's toast?
Yeah. Look, I really think it depends who you are. Like, if you talk to, you know, if you talk to some old school runners in their 60s and 70s, they'll tell you that they got, you know, 2,000 K out of a pair of Dunlop volleys, right? And true story, like, there's some guys that do that. And then there's the newer generation that very different, okay? And I'm not saying one way is good and one way is bad. You know, I'm not very opinionated on that at all, but it is really depends who you are. Obviously, sometimes you can see the outsole wearing out, okay? But in a shoe like the Goshawk, the outsole doesn't really wear out. It's more maybe 800, 900, 1,000 K. Depends how heavy you are and what terrain you're running on. The midsole might start getting flat. Or if you have a pointy end on the back of your heel, like a big like spur thing, you might start pushing a hole through the fabric. Like, there's so many ways to know that your shoe's done. But I think if you run enough, you end up figuring out your kind of sweet spot. But I think also the guys that run a lot, you start getting tiny little niggles in your lower extremities, like your feet might ache a little bit, and then you put on a new pair and it all just disappears. So yeah, I think it is really each for their own to answer that. I can't answer that question there's no black and white answer to that. Yeah.
And what is like the afterlife of the shoe? Like, if you've had a pair of Tarkines and you've worn through them, what do people do with them to kind of, you know, make the most of the properties that you've built into it?
Well, so if they're completely done with it, you mean, and ready for it to get passed
to
on?
retire them essentially.
Yeah. So if the soft line is probably by then is completely trash, right? It's all just starting to biodegrade by itself. If you have a compost bin, cut it up into 10 bits, whack it in a compost bin, and it's just going to disappear in there. But if you don't, just cut it up into 10 bits and put it in the garbage. And instead of sitting in the garbage for 1,000 years, it'll just go. And so that's that. But the rest of the shoe, you don't need to do anything. You just ship it. We have an address on our website, which is the company that we work with recycling, and you ship it to them. And so the way it works at the moment is the customers are paying that shipping to these to the company, and then Tarkine pays for the cost of the recycling. And so we pay on a per kilo basis, and soon we will have videos and photos of some of the end products. But we're just, the way it works is this company is waiting for a certain number of kilos, which is a really high number, like 100 kilos or something worth of shoes, and then they just recycle them all in one batch. So with time, we'll be able to document that and show everyone on our social media feeds and stuff.
Ooh.
And where is that facility? Is it in Australia, or is it something?
It's in Melbourne. So we were using, for those who've been following us from the start, a different brand, but now we've switched to apparel. Actually, based on, I had a meeting with Simon Harrison for Wild Places and a bunch of his colleagues, and I was put in touch with a company that was just even recycling better than the previous company. And so, their name is Apparel.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them. I know they're really good if you've got old clothes and stuff as well. You can basically send it off to them and they go through it, and anything that is still wearable, they give to people who need clothes, and then whatever's left, they just recycle it into textiles and carpets and stuff. So it's
amazing.
Awesome that
amazing company.
And it's funny, I've seen them a lot. They've been around a while, but now they're becoming more well known, which is really positive to see, because it is from all reports, they're doing an awesome job and can recycle a range of things that are otherwise, going to landfill.
Definitely. Yeah.
Hey, Sam, you mentioned a trail shoe coming out. I've actually these the ones I've got are pretty comfy off-road actually, but that's exciting that a trail version is coming out. What are some of the differences in the new shoe?
Can I share my screen quickly and show you guys?
Yeah. Oh.
Let me just make sure this is working. Are you guys, I think, have you?
I've just made you a co-host, Sam, so you should be able to share your screen.
All right, sweet.
So did you say you're hoping to have these out by the end of this year?
I'm hoping to have them out in November. November, touch wood, but it's really difficult, guys. I'm not sure why this isn't sharing, but sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on. Share sound.
Technology, gotta love it.
Yeah.
Have you got a name for the new shoe, Sam?
Oh, we're calling it the Trail Devil, just after, just the Tassie Devils and stuff. Sorry, guys, I'm going to have to give up with that share screen, and I'm just, it is just not.
Well, that's right. We'll have to wait like everyone else.
I can. Yeah, so it's look, for those no trail shoes, it's got lugs on the bottom. It's obviously, because our shoe has a lot of grip, but it's great for roads and light trails, but for really technical trails, like really, really steep inclines and descents, a lot of people would much prefer big lugs. And so it's got more of an engineered mesh upper with toe protection and with a tiny bit higher stack heights too. We're really going for that shoe for people who, ultra athletes like, Matt Gore talking about earlier, who can wear on 100 miler. And so, that's it's a big step for us, that the trail shoe, really going after the shoe for those really elite 100 mile athletes can wear on race day.
Brilliant.
That's epic.
Sam, can I ask a question? So thanks so much
Oh,
for that.
yeah,
It's
mate.
great to hear
Yeah.
about the shoe, and keen to hear about the manufacturing process. Like, I understand it's not manufactured in Australia at the moment, and that's probably because it's tough to find the capacity to do that. And I was just wondering if you could tell us a bit more about that process, and if you've got ambitions long term to try and
Yeah.
get it at home on Australian soil or anything like that.
Yeah, totally. So the manufacturing process obviously is happening in Asia at the moment, and I would like a lot of manufacturers. I would love to be able to manufacture it in Australia. It's I've looked into it extensively, and I'll try and give you just a quick recap. But it is possible. It is not possible at the moment with the way shoes are being made. So even if you look at some of the biggest brands, the mass production of kind of high mileage trainers or trail shoes, they're still getting made in the traditional process where, let's say there's 21 sizes of that shoe. Each size has its own midsole mold and outsole mold, and then last, okay? And you have to make those manually. It's a very kind of manual intensive process. There are some shoes now that have been made via printing technology, so 3D printing technology, and that eventually 100% is going to change the game, okay? And we have even been playing around with that already, but I'm talking about, we can make like one shoe, but in terms of mass production using that, it is coming. If you look at the improvement even from 4 or 5 years ago to now in that 3D printing stuff, it's ridiculous. I think to be honest, like bringing manufacturing of shoes to Australia using the current ways of manufacturing is most likely impossible, because we don't have the institutional knowledge in Australia. We don't have those decades and decades of experienced people who know exactly, how the tooling works. Okay, and without kind of bringing in a lot of overseas, workers, it would be very, very hard to do it here. But the technology is the answer to that manufacturing process, and that's something that we've had meetings with local government already, and if we can. There are some really nice grants for Australian companies that we definitely, I think, will be a wonderful candidate for. And so once we can prove that we have a successful business over, say, a 2-year period, okay, so we've only been up for 6 months, so another 18 months from now, and then we show that a certain percent of our business is being shipped overseas. So currently, maybe 4% of shoes are shipped to America. So that number would really need to go up. But once we can prove these things, then there's some really, really huge grants around that we will go after hard. And if we can get those, then we will then put the next step into place, the 3D promises, because there's a lot of things that need to go right in order to pull that off. But that's certainly like from day one what we had been telling people is the goal, and I'm not going to go back on it. It's something that we're just going to plug away and work towards, but it's all about the tech. I hope that answers your question. Hey,
it certainly does. Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah. Thanks. I'm keen as well to know more about, like, it seems like your shoes, they're in the same price bracket as most other shoes. So how do you manage to achieve that, given that you're using like recycled materials, you're putting a lot more thought into these sorts of things? Like, is that sort of sacrifices you're making on profits, or you're managing to be able to produce it for a similar cost?
No, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think our margins are lower, but like definitely, because our per unit cost is higher at the moment. If you look at like a big brand putting an order in for 250,000 pairs, and we come along and put an order in for 6,000 pairs. You know what I mean? Like you've got to pay more per unit, and so our margins are definitely lower. And how we're getting away with it at the moment is that because we're not, because we are just focused on Australia, we are managing to keep our overheads relatively low, because we go straight from the factory to us, and then we control everything from here. And by micromanaging that process and not having distributors and middlemen in place and people who, just take cuts all over the shop, we're managing to fight and to do pretty well for the moment. But totally, it's our cost of production is higher than the average brand. Yeah. unfortunately. One day
No,
it'll
look,
go down.
yeah, that's understandable. And I guess then for you guys, it's better if, say, customers like myself buy directly from you rather than buying like from a third party, because that means that they're just going to be taking cuts as well.
Not necessarily. We just have we're working with 7 retailers right now, and to be honest, I prefer if you bought from your. I'm not sure where you live, Tim, but there's no. I think once those. It's nice to support those retailers, is what I'm getting at, because we're not working with massive chains. We're just working with not mum and dad shops, but just those grassroots running companies and running shops that love startup brands, and they're getting behind us, and therefore in a roundabout way I'd love to get behind them. And so even though obviously the margin's a lot less for us when you buy from a shop, I want those shops to keep stocking Tarkines.
Yeah,
and so
sure.
I think if I had to say, I'd say no. If there's a local shop, if you live in where there is one, there's not that many yet, but there's more coming. Then yeah, go and grab a pair from those guys.
Great, that's good to know. So where can I go in Melbourne to pick up a pair?
Oh, Melbourne, nowhere yet in Melbourne.
Oh,
No, we've got 2 shops in Brizzy and 5 shops in Perth. We're talking to a couple in Sydney. Our problem is at the moment is that we've got we're running out of shoes. Which is a good problem, but I can't bring on more shops until we get more shoes, because I don't want to let these shops down. So we've got a new order placed, and we're fixing up their first production run. We had the webbing, like the lining up here, it would just wear out a bit too quickly. Like after 300 or 400K, in some people, not in all people, you get a tiny bit of a wear and hole there. And so we've gone and made that a lot tougher so it doesn't happen. And we just fixed just a couple tiny things like that. And so the next order should be arriving in a few months. So yeah, I've got to hold off on the shops until then. Yeah.
Okay. Cheers. Thanks for that.
So, Sam, do you know of any other attempts to do anything like this, like around the world?
Adidas, definitely. They have a shoe, Parlay for Ocean. And it is good what they're doing. Like they're working with a company called Parlay, where they go and collect ocean trash, and they make the upper of the shoe, just the upper of the shoe using the ocean trash. And so it's the same thing as what we're doing. But because they're Adidas, they're massive, and I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm not sure if where the money goes after that. I'm not sure they're getting behind massive organization, environmental groups. I'm not sure about that. In terms of the eco-friendly tech stuff of the shoe, that's something, all that will get plugged, and other brands will be doing it. I think, I've even been talking to some friends in the industry that have been watching what we're doing, and they've already, and I think there are already moves being made to, everyone wants to be more eco-friendly. Okay. And that's going to happen. But the question is, are they going to then turn around and pay for the recycling, which is what we're doing, because that eats into your margin as well. And then are they also going to start, putting their money, and funneling it into important, organizations. And I think those things no one's doing. Like we're the only one, to my knowledge, doing that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I guess on that, how can people get behind you? I mean, obviously buying shoes is an obvious one, and I guess like sharing on social and that kind of stuff. But but how can we kind of help you out?
Well, yeah, it's just shoes, but we also we have trucker hats and shirts, and they're all made. We have recycled shirts that pre-consumer recycled, but we have we have all sorts of other product too, even for people that have run. And we do, like, I love, Patagonia is a great brand, and they are a brand that does funnel money into important organizations. And so I would love to think that Tarkine can be more than just a running shoe company. I'd love it to be a brand that people just, they don't run, just, wear the hat or wear the shirt, or we've got some hoodies coming out next week and stuff like that, and just getting behind us and supporting our brand and, telling friends. And that's how things grow, just word of mouth.
Yeah. Awesome. Is anyone Anyone else got any questions or comments?
Not particularly, but I guess, have you been back to the Tarkine since, Sam? Have you had a chance to?
No, well, because I was down to run this year the Tarkine Ultra, and but then we weren't allowed. I live in Fremantle in Western Australia, and I had to pull out like a week prior because our government still wasn't letting us leave the state at that point in time. That was in Feb, I think. Feb or early March, I can't remember, but I think it was late actually. And then about 2 weeks later, they released the borders. So I haven't been back since COVID, unfortunately, but I will be. I'm definitely going to run the race next year, and yeah, I'll be going back every year as long as there's no more random pandemics that strike.
Yeah, and as long as they continue to log the native forests of Tasmania, which, you know,
I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon, especially, and it's the mining as well, you know, and yeah.
And because it is an interesting point, we've had these chats a lot for Wild Places, in that as soon as you're a not-for-profit trying to do good things, it's very hard to get money. Whereas if you're like a, you know, tech startup, or, you know, like you said, an apparel company or something, there's a lot of money to be made. But do you feel like this experience has kind of given you more of an insight into how, like, I think by building this model, that other companies that do sell products can see that there's an advantage to having that good, you know, giving back thing built into the organization, and that becoming more common? Because I think that a lot of people think it's too hard, but I feel like you've shown on a smaller scale how it is possible, and you can still, I guess, make money, but also do good at the same time.
I think so. Look, it's so much competition. Like, if you want to go and start an apparel company, I mean, and you don't have a story behind you and something greater than just trying to do it for the sake of doing it. I mean, look how many, you're up against everybody, you know, and the margins aren't great, and the competition's fierce, and I just don't think you have any chance of succeeding unless, you know, you're one of these lucky brands that got to start 30 years ago, you know. And so I think for anyone to have a shot these days, there needs to be a story behind the brand, and it needs to be a real brand that stands for something and never backs down, you know. I think that's the only way. And I think we're off to a great start, and I've shown that model works, but it's early days for us, you know. Like, I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's like, you know, I've been around for like 6 months. Let's just touch base in 6 years and see how we're doing, you know. But yeah, I do think there's something behind standing for something and having a brand that actually, you know, believes in something.
And I guess, was the crowdfunding the kind of essential way to do that, to be able to, you know, get that big product run initially?
Look, to be totally honest with you guys, we had a $250,000 bill that we had to pay, and I was freaking out thinking, I don't know, I want to do this. And so I was like, let's just launch Kickstarter and just see if anyone cares about us. And so that's why we did it, because before I was going to risk everything, I just decided, let's just put it out there. And if we get like 2 people rock up, then obviously it's a bad idea. But if we get, you know, people rock up, then maybe we got something. And it was as simple as that. Yeah, it really was. It was just, we did that for a tick of approval, really, before we took a massive risk.
And were you happy with how the Kickstarter, like how it all ended up?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, totally. I am happy. It was not a fun process. Must have been. Like, it was exciting. I'm glad I've done it once in my life, but I think that's that, you know, in terms of crowdfunding. There are a lot of things that go into it. Like, and I think we're getting like 100 emails a day. It was a lot to keep up with, and but it went well. You know, the funny thing is that I've been involved with a few Kickstarter campaigns, like as a consumer, just buying, and usually you need to wait 12 months, 18 months, and sometimes the product never turns up. And we were the opposite. Like, we had the product nearly ready, and I was like, I don't even know if I want to pay the big bill. So then we decided to just test the waters, and so everyone got their product within 3 months, which is nearly unheard of for Kickstarter. And so I think we have a lot of happy kind of Tarkine, you know, people that have experienced kind of a fast service from us, and hopefully that puts us in good stead.
Yeah, definitely. I know I'm still waiting on some Kickstarter, like, you know, things that I've signed up to years ago, and it's kind of, you kind of forget about it, but when you actually do follow through, and not only follow through, but in a quicker time frame, yeah, people definitely remember that. And hopefully you've got a customer for life versus, you know, being wishy-washy and like not delivering on following through on what you said you'd do.
Yeah, I think you need to under promise and over deliver with the old Kickstarter, you know. That was my theory anyway.
If you got things to that point though, you must have gone out on a fair limb yourself, Sam.
Yeah, but definitely. Yeah, it's not a small endeavor. It's something that yeah, I've taken a risk, and I've been, I've been working full time for, I don't know, 16 and a bit years. So, you know, and so like I've saved some money, but it's not, you know, yeah, that's a big risk for me. Like, it's not something that, like, if I lost all that, I'd be like, oh, you know, damn, what do I do now? But like, yeah, look, you only live once, you know. I just thought, I can always go back and work full time as a vet. Like, I'm still working one night shift a week at the moment to just take, you know, just to stay in it. And it didn't work. I just thought, if it didn't work, I'd just go back and work full time, and I'm going to be fine. My kids will still be able to go to school and eat, and it's all good, you know. You got to have, you only live once, and I just thought, let's just go for it, have a crack, and what will be, you know.
Wow, that's really bloody admirable. Any other questions?
No, I feel like that's all for now, but yeah, and I just want to say as well, I'm sure Will, whose name is Chris, we'll get to this later, but yeah, we really appreciate you coming on board with the membership and being generous in giving away 2 pairs of the Goshawks. And I know that, yeah, from everyone I've spoken to that has got a pair, has absolutely loved them, which I think is, you know, people are often surprised in the sense that, like Will said, often you sacrifice quality when it comes to buying something that is more environmentally friendly. So yeah, kudos to you for sticking at it and creating a product that not only, you know, is more durable and lasts longer, but also is recyclable. And I think just makes people realize that, you know, shoes are such a key part of running, but people go through a lot of pairs. So having something that, you know, can kind of lessen that impact, even though, yeah, there still is an impact, is really admirable, and hopefully forces others to do better and think more about the afterlife of their products as well.
For sure.
Definitely.
I just, a big plug to get the fluoro ones too, because I was thinking about getting the black ones, but I got the fluoro ones, and every run I've gone to, at least someone has gone, what are they? And I've started a conversation. So
yeah, the most popular one is the black upper with the fluoro green bottom.
Oh, yeah.
The midsole's fluoro green, the upper's black. Like, I think we sell like 5 times more of that colorway than any other, but yeah, I like the fluoro as well, you know.
Awesome.
Right.
No, look, thanks so much, Sam. Oh, sorry, was that someone else? No. Yeah, thanks heaps, Sam. I won't repeat that thanks that Hillary said. That covered it, but I totally agree. And just, yeah, for those folks here, but also listening to this recording, please check out Tarkine's at the website, Instagram, Facey. Tell your friends, tell everyone. Also, just a plug for Wild Places, and if you're not a member of For Wild Places, have a think about becoming a founding member. 100% of the income from membership goes into funding our operations, and so we can continue to organise to protect wild places. And just a quick update, our first major event, the Pilliga Ultra in late March, was a cracking success, raised $82,000 for the campaign there to stop coal seam gas mining in the Pilliga. A beautiful wild area that, amongst other things, is the recharge area for the Great Artesian Basin. So, and that's the kind of event that, with help from folks like Sam and yourself, we want to continue organising into the years beyond. And the other thing is, other than supporting a really important thing, if you join up, you also get some really awesome perks, like Sam has generously offered for Wild Places members a 20% discount on Tarkine gear, which is another thing to thank Sam heaps for. if you want to check out our membership, just jump on the website and jump to the join tab or the membership tab. At that point, 250, if you guys don't mind, I've got this hilarious low tech winning, how do I say it? Like we're going to draw the winners for the giveaway. So Hill, I might see if I can share my screen.
Sure, I'll make you a co-host as well.
Oh, excellent. I think.
Oh, there we go.
Can you guys see?
Oh, here we go. This is fun.
Here we go. Check this out. So if people joined up for a limited period of time, you go into the draw to wear a pair of Tarkines, and there's the names here. I'm just going. I wanted Sam to do this, but then I didn't really get around to it, so I'm just going to click the button there. Drum roll. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's so close. If I remember correctly, Will, we've got a men's and women's.
We do. So I've just got another tab here. Here we go.
Oh, here we go. It's good to see we've got more female members than male members by the looks of it.
There were, yep, more women jumped on and joined to start with.
I quite like this. This is
fun.
No,
this is pretty fun. And Felicity.
Excellent. I like the little clap at the end as well.
Nice.
Oh, you can hear that? That's excellent.
That's
all right.
awesome.
Thanks for indulging us there, folks. We've got 2 winners, and thanks, Sam, again so much for your generosity, and thanks heaps for joining us today at our first trail chat.
And one thing that I think is worth adding as well is I think you've got a 7-day returns policy, don't you, Sam?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think because it's good to, I guess, if you can't head into store and try a pair on, that way you can.
Oh, yeah, because everyone has different feet, and like I've quickly learned that some people have like weird lumps on their feet and the shoes just don't work for them, and that's life, just test them out, and if that happens, just send them back.
Yeah, very, very good. And I think, yeah, and once you find a pair of shoes, that's what I do, just keep buying the same pair. So, it's great that you've got, and it sounds like Matt's been doing a lot of trail stuff, but the new trail shoes sounds like they'll
Matt
be
won that. Yeah, he won the Tarkine Ultra, I think 65K or something, but yeah, so they are like fine for most trails, but it's just like, it's super technical trail, then it's not made for that,
Yeah. but no, it's a testament. It's a pretty solid shoe considering, I know the 65K course in Tarkine is definitely not easy. So it's, a well-made shoe that did the job.
Totally. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you,
Sam.
It was a pleasure. And thanks everyone else for joining this meeting. And we'll buzz out links for other folks to watch. And if you have ideas for people we could have on for our future trail chats, email us at For Wild Places. But thanks for coming. And Sam, thanks heaps, mate.
Thanks.